Order. In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. And we have the agenda presented in the package. Councillor Adams.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
All in favor? Okay, continuing on. We have our delegation. Jonathan Allen, if you can come forward, please make sure to state your full name and address for the record and speak into the mic so that everybody can hear you.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Jonathan Allen, 1201 11th Street Southeast. Last year, I got a plan to build a garage. So through the planning and stuff of building the garage, we were under the understanding that light pole would be on me for ATCO to move it. So I built the garage last year, and then I was going to pour the driveway this year. And right now, I can only get 17 feet of driveway. I think you have the pictures there. I can only get 17 feet of driveway, and park two trucks side by side is really tight. And that picture doesn't really show, but it's kind of in the way of the door a little bit. So I got a hold of ATCO this year, and they came back at me with a quote and stuff, but he said, Mr. Allen, we can't do nothing with this. The town, it's their light. They have to request to get it moved, and it's on them. Me as a homeowner, I can't do anything with it. So I guess that's why I'm here, is to see if we can get that light pole moved back. In the line locate, it shows it's the last one in that series and there's nothing after it, which is a bonus for moving it, because it's the only one there. And it would have to go 12 feet back to the east, just to the other side of that tree. 12 feet back, then I could get my 28-foot driveway in, and that would give me the 1.5 meter allowance away from it with my concrete. Then I could have a nice full driveway there. And ATCO was talking about they'd like to upgrade that light at the same time. I guess that's what they do when they replace lights. They upgrade them. And so I know the lens in that one is really dull and old and doesn't give off a whole lot of light. I guess the other option would be removing it altogether, if that was an option. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's it. You guys had the line locate there, shows it's the last one. It would have to go 12 feet back to the east. And that would give me my full driveway and a straight shot into the garage.
Yeah. Any questions from council?
I was wondering what is the cost to take that light out or to move it?
Now, ATCO gave me a price of $7,000, but he said the town might be able to get a better pricing than that. He said where they might use their own hydrovac instead of ATCO hiring a hydrovac. He said he couldn't really compare prices what they charge the town. So, and he wouldn't give me that price. He said that would have to be dealt with you guys. But for me, it was $7,000. But he said you can't do anything as a homeowner. It's got to be the town.
Councillor Gramlich.
So are you looking for the town to give permission to move this, or the town to pay for the removal of it?
Both.
Both?
Because I can't pay for it. So they said it was on the town. So I guess, yeah, for the town to request to move it and pay for it, cost sharing, maybe, if that's an option. Working together, get this done.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councillor Brandel?
Question for Jeff, actually. You may or may not be able to answer this tonight. Has ATCO discussed any of this with you and like prices if we were to do this for him on his behalf, but he would pay for it? Like his.
Yeah, I didn't discuss that sort of the payment arrangements or whatever. I did reach out to them this afternoon just to confirm kind of a rough estimate. And they came back with this, an average of $7,000 to $10,000 to move a light. So the hydrovac is a good portion of that cost. And sometimes the hydrovac and disposal they estimated could be between $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
Lori, since you're here, would we have to ask the rest of the people in the neighborhood if we move this? Is because there is an impact?
There's other considerations.
Okay, okay,
If it did go back to the east, it would actually benefit more people, just the way it is actually,
would it? Yeah.
if it was to move, yeah. And that cost for disposal, that seems really, really high. I don't know, that $3,000 to $5,000. I work hydrovacs. That's what I do for a living and stuff, and back trucks, and I've never heard of $3,000 to $5,000, so I don't know where they got that number from, but it's yeah, seems a little high.
What's your, you're gonna say like ASAP, but what's your time? How quick did you want this turned around?
I still got so I'm off for 4 days. I got to go back up north for turnaround season, so I'm gone for another month and a half.
So it's not super urgent.
No,
Okay.
no, we've got some time here. We got a month or so, maybe a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Thinking maybe just after May long weekend.
Any further questions? Okay, so thank you for that, and we'll be discussing that at a later point in the meeting. You don't have to, you can stay if you want for the rest of the meeting, but you don't have to. And then that'll come up later after a bunch of our reports.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next up is the CAO update.
All right, thank you. So before you should have a copy of the CO update. I had a couple last minute additions that weren't included in the package that I'll go over as well. So as normal, I'll just kind of go over some of the highlights. So from our finance department, they're working with the MD of Lesser Slave River on finalizing invoicing for the intermunicipal and fire service agreements. They received the invoice from the RCMP already for the retro payment in the amount of $367,342. This amount was set up in prior years as a payable. They filed the first quarter GST return. The town will be getting a refund of approximately $65,000. And they're working on the final adjustments for year end. They'll be preparing a first quarter budget update that'll be brought back to council and reviewed insurance coverage and changes with AMSC and working on the initial paperwork to increase the town's cyber coverage, which is a direct result of our ability to get that cyber coverage as a direct result of our investment in our cybersecurity our platforms that we had discussed in budget this year. Under our projects department, Kush continues to prepare RFQ and RFP documents for upcoming projects for the 2023 season. The RFP for concrete and asphalt program closed last week, and the report will be brought forward, I believe, this evening. It's on the agenda. We're reviewing the contract with the MRC roof replacement, coordinating support to the Rotary Club for the installation of a gazebo out at Sugar Park. And we're also working with a local contractor for a gazebo structure out at Hilda Eden Park. We'll be meeting, project department continues to meet with the Regional Arts Council to discuss a downtown art piece project. They're working with a consultant to create a revised drawing for further engagement. Picnic tables and benches were ordered for the Hilda Eden Park Splash Park. And RFP for enterprise resource planning closed on the 23rd of March. 2 submissions have been received, and we're currently in the process of creating evaluation criteria for proposal evaluation. Communications Department EngageSlaveLake.ca launched with 3 true engagement projects and several information only projects. There's a current subscribers of 101 currently registered. Completed removing updated and rescinded information from town social media channels. Prepped and scheduled a total of 68 social media posts. Our current Voyant subscribers are at 522, Facebook followers at about 7,400, and Facebook page reach about 25,600. Mentioned the engagement projects that were on EngageSlaveLake.ca. 2 of them that were ready for conclusion here is one is related to, do you agree with the town's proposed default unposted speed limit reductions from 50 down to 40? Of the 59 responses received, 17% strongly agree, 5 agree, 8 were neutral, 14 disagreed, and 56 strongly disagreed with the change. In regards to the question of the extension to school zone hours, out of 74 responses received, option 1 to extend the school zone hours received 24% support. 22 to harmonize playground and school zones received 15, and option 3 to make no change was 61%. And we also conducted a communication survey that garnered 23 responses. Under economic development, the town of Slave Lake received the community designation as part of the rural renewal stream for the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. So a rural renewal stream portal was created on the town website, which provides detailed information for employers and candidates on the application process and eligibility requirements. Economic Development Advisory Committee Board has had its inaugural meeting, and the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for June 11th. And last but not least, the Northern and Regional Economic Development Grant application was accepted that we submitted on behalf of the town. So funds will be used to conduct the industrial land market and fiscal impact analysis. Fire department had a total of 143 calls. 143 calls to date. In March 2023, the fire service hosted a provincial wildland urban interface conference at the Legacy Center, as well as a half-day provincial structure protection specialist meeting. Firefighters from across Alberta, as well as representatives from the government of Alberta, attended to discuss the 2022 wildfire season, as well as the potential for the 2023 fire season. 3 fire and life safety inspections were completed, as well as regional training on the firefighter safety at all halls, which was completed for the month of March. 2 members attended a certified ice rescue course in Parkland County. National Fire Protection Association instructor level 1 course was held in Slave Lake. 3 of our service members, as well as 5 from other fire departments, successfully completed the course. And search and rescue basic course was held with 9 new searchers certified. The town of Slave Lake and the MD of Lesser Slave Rivers Councils both approved the new property tax rebate for regional volunteer firefighters to assist with recruitment and retention, as you're aware. Community services, just a couple highlights. April 22nd to 23rd is a Bronze Medallion Bronze Medallion swimming course, and April 29th to 30th, the Bronze Cross. If you recall, those are courses now that we're offering for free of charge to town of Slave Lake residents in hopes of helping potentially bolster our recruitment efforts to our pool staff. And the aquatics department is going to be working on a communications plan to roll out with the new wristband swim test policy and leveraging engagesslavelake.ca to assist with that. Under the FCSS division, tax program has commenced, and to date they've completed 156 tax returns. Volunteer Week is coming up April 16th to 22nd. Volunteer recognition program is underway. Under recreation and programming, they've secured staffing for a number of our vacant positions. So our program coordinator, summer splash coordinator, and Vic travel counselors have all been secured and will be starting in the next few weeks. The multi-rec center hours changed April 1st. For the month of April are Monday to Friday, 8 to 8, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 7. Under our operations department, Public Works continues working on steaming. Potholes started with cold mix. Gravel areas will be touched up as the needed while they wait for the frost to leave the ground. And the recycle center ongoing maintenance. Under the utilities department, the Sawridge lift twinning project kicked off. E-lift to the waste, the WTP project prep and material deliveries. Various certified, a lot of our staff are going through certification exams and training courses, and the water plant site cleanup was also completed this term. Other than that, that is the update under the CAO report.
Councillor Moyle. Or if there's questions.
I just had a question. I'm just reading this wristband swim test policy. Can you just briefly just talk about that?
Yeah, so I believe it was last council meeting. It was brought, our community services brought a report back to council in regards to some changes that are happening across Canada as it relates to operation of pools and the risk management of as it relates to those pools. And specifically a policy and a recommendation from Life Saving Society of Canada recommending that all pools that are operating, whether it's summer or during the winter, implement a program or a response similar to this wristband sort of policy to test all of the young swimmers that are coming to the pool in regards to their abilities in the pool, and basically giving them a wristband accordingly. So whether they're confident and able to swim a length or two of the pool and pass a swim test, or whether they're essentially non-swimmers in deep water and have to remain within arm's length of a parent. The pools will test the kids, the lifeguards will test the kids as they come. They'll basically maintain a database of the kids, so they don't have to continually get tested every time they come to the pool.
Okay.
And they'll basically be given a wristband that says, yeah, green, you're good to go. Yellow, maybe have to be within arm's length, or red, you have to be within a parent supervision or not alone, right? So a program similar to that. There'll be more information coming forward, other than that was presented at the last council meeting.
Thanks for the clarification.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, this question is probably more for Jason. With the rural renewal stream program being all finalized, I was just curious, how are we planning on engaging with the local businesses, and kind of what's our plan for that? Or is that something that's coming at another meeting?
So the communication strategy around that was basically just social media. And we've
Okay.
actually already received 4 applications from businesses here in town.
Wonderful.
I'm currently reviewing those applications and we'll get back to those.
Okay, so just social media mostly.
Yeah, social media and the website, obviously, because the website is where the whole portal is.
Okay. I would say that I feel like it might be advantageous to reach out to Community Futures or the Chamber of Commerce as well, to maybe let them know, just because they have a quick line to a lot of businesses in town, so that this program is utilized, because it's something we've been pushing for quite a while. So now that it's here, I just want to make sure we get the word out there as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Just a quick comment for Jeff here. So spring is right around the corner. Beach season is almost upon us. I'm just wondering if the MD has reached out about their beach cleanup and their grooming schedule for this year. It'd be nice to have that done by possibly May long weekend.
Do you have the date? They set dates?
They scheduled a meeting for April in order to set the schedule for the season.
So we have had an initial meeting with Alberta Parks and with the MD. The fire department was there because they play a role in some of the equipment. And so we kind of looked over the agreement and some of the administrative sort of preamble for this year.
Yep.
But the dates haven't been set yet as it relates to any sort of beach cleanup or coordinated effort out there yet.
Perfect. Thank you.
I will add, last council session, Councillor Hughes had mentioned or asked about our operations department and spring preparations. So I indicated I would bring back some more information as that. So, and I kind of hinted at it in our reports there, but spring cleanup from the operations department, this is from our operations director, typically starts at the beginning of May. They wait till all the snow is melted off the lawns and they dry out a bit. That being said, they get the big sweepers out a little early for the streets for the cleanup of the bulk of the winter sand. Typically by the end of April, this is all completed. It's all weather dependent, of course. The gravel road, in regards to the gravel roads and grading, you had asked that question as well. Our operations director indicated we try not to cut too deep into them until the frost is out. So we keep an eye on them. If they need a little dressing up in the meantime, they'll give them a light scratch to cut the washboard out and fill some of the potholes. But any sort of significant grading needs to typically wait till the frost is out of the ground. So.
Councillor Malala.
Just in regards to the rural renewal stream, I know there's a lot of businesses that had questions about it that I've been talking to. So just kind of, I know Councillor Hughes had talked about touching base with the Chamber of Commerce. I want to take it, see if we can go one step further and maybe doing some sort of presentation to businesses in Slave Lake and what that exactly means.
Yeah, happy to give a presentation. Just let me know.
Okay, well, I had one question too. So a bunch of the items on the update here indicated that with Engage Slave Lake, we're going to be waiting for like responses or using it to garner public input into things. Is there a time limit that we're putting on these things with regards to the projects before we continue forward?
Yeah, I mean, each project is unique. There isn't necessarily a set time frame. So depending on the length or the extensiveness of the consultation or engagement that we're looking for, but typically there needs to be an end date for us to be able to wrap up what we have in terms of that information and then move forward with recommendations. So we're probably at I believe if you were to go onto the website tonight, the traffic studies are still on there and they're still available for residents to input. But those will come to an end very soon as we start to transition into taking the information that we received and bringing some options in a report to council in terms of recommendations moving forward.
And then for communications, do we have a strategy for upping the subscribership of our Engaged Slave Lake? So it says 101 right now, right?
It's at 101, so not much beyond what we're already doing, continuing on social media and the usual channels, and then myself showing up to community events throughout the summer with the table and try and get folks with the tablets.
Great. Counselor Hughes?
On that note, I did have another question that I wrote down too. Are we planning on attending the Lake Life Trade Show as the town of Slave Lake to promote these? The Voyant and the Engagement HQ, like, are we having a booth in it or anything, or? Community Services does? Okay. I just thought it might be a great avenue to promote both of those platforms to the public that are attending the trade show while we were on that topic. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you already have a table there, I'm happy to show.
Counselor Gravlich.
Motion to accept the CAO update as information.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next up is the management task list.
Okay, well, thank you. So up again. So essentially what you have before you is an update on current and outstanding management tasks or motions made by council to administration. Some of them have been marked complete for updated status and then will be removed for future reporting. So if you have any questions as it relates to any of those, then I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Counselor Hughes.
motion to accept the task list as information.
Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. All right. Do we have anything for question period? I think we asked a lot of questions in the first part of that. So we'll continue on to reports and new business. First up is Jill with community cleanup.
Right, good evening. So tonight I am here to talk about community cleanup. So community cleanup has been around for over 20 years. This year, assuming that we don't get any more snow, the date has been set for the week of May 7th to 13th, 2023. It's organized in partnership with the program coordinator and FCSS. Each year we put a slightly different spin on the event, so it kind of depends on the year and the interest, but in the past we've partnered with the MD, done barbecues, done contests, tied it in with highway cleanup, which is typically the first Saturday in May, and partnered with Pitchin Week. Pitchin Week these days isn't much more than them just providing garbage bags for us, but we still do put our name on the list for that. So this year we plan to have some contests again, and we'll reach out to the MD to see if they're interested in partnering. So the process for community cleanup is that we obviously promote it through all of our channels, and then also follow up with groups that have participated in the past. Groups sign up through the MRC at the front desk there. We identify areas that within the community that need to be cleaned and encourage people to choose those areas. But also lots of groups, pick their neighborhood, or some of the schools go out around their areas. So we definitely encourage everyone to go out and pick the area that best suits them. We do keep track of the areas that people go out to and encourage people to pick different areas. We try not to have duplicates, but also if people are very passionate about doing the area and someone's already chose it, we aren't going to tell them that they can't do it. Then after people have signed up, we make packages and to have them available to pick up starting probably around the 5th, we'll have them available at the MRC. And so the packages include t-shirts. The feedback we got in past years is that everyone has lots of community cleanup t-shirts because we've had them for as long as I've been here. So we were going to scale back on what we provide for t-shirts this year and offer that as a question, like, would you like t-shirts or do you not need them? And then we provide bags, both recycle bags and garbage bags. We make the garbage bags a different color so that they're more easily identifiable, that they're not not just someone put their garbage out on the street, that they're part of community cleanup, as well as an info sheet about safety and what to do if they have come across dangerous items and things like that. And then a tracking sheet where we ask how many people have participated and how many bags of garbage were picked up. And we ask that comes back to us so that we can track things. Participants do need to provide their own gloves and garbage pickers if they desire to use those. We provide extra bins at the MRC so that we encourage people to bring their garbage that they've picked up there. However, if they aren't able to do that, we will go pick up the garbage for them through our parks department. Like I said, that's why we provide the different color garbage bags so that we can identify which bags are part of community cleanup and which are just garbage that people have left out. Our overall budget for the program is about $2,100, which includes t-shirts, money towards prizes, the garbage bags, and what else do I have in there? Yeah, that's about it. Oh, and the extra dumpster, we also do have to pay for that. Like I said, some of the things that we've done in the past are partnering with MD. In the past, they have offered the hazardous waste bins. They did that for a couple of years, which was a nice addition, but that's kind of tied to the landfill and what their capacity is. We also do have the hazardous waste roundup that operations puts on, so there is still that option for people generally in the spring. We have done a barbecue a couple of years. There hasn't been a whole lot of interest, but it's always something that we can do. As Jeff mentioned, we do have our new program coordinator starting next week, so that'll be nice to have them have some enthusiasm behind that. And then we've also talked about having a fall cleanup as well. So that's something that we can always look at. And we also do always provide, so E.G. Wallstrom's going out next week. So anytime anyone reaches out to us and wants to participate, even if it's outside of the week, we will provide supplies and offer the service of putting things in our dumpster. So just a good way to encourage people to take pride in the community. So overall, community cleanup, it's a great community initiative. It's tied to our mission of working together to build a better community and our strategic priority of livability and creating connections within the community. I know it's always hard to pick the week because I've already had people telling me that we need to get out, but we do try and wait for the snow to melt and try and get rid of the risk of the snow falling again. So, and our parks department, our staff do go out and clean up Main Street as soon as they can once the weather's a little bit better. So we contribute from that way. And then we also do, I don't know if I included that in there, but we also do always do a staff day as well to encourage our staff to get out and participate as well.
Great. Questions? Councilor Randall?
So you said you've done the fall one in the past, but is that included in this, the 2,100 or?
No, that would be an additional cost.
Okay.
We generally have supplies left over from year to year. So we could use those, but the fall one is difficult because again, if we get an early snowfall, then it's a harder one to plan. It's not like spring where people, like, we know that the weather's getting better. So, but again, definitely something that was on my list of things to talk to our new program coordinator about when they start next week. So just to encourage them to look at that and try and pick a date, because September generally is, I'm like, this year I'll jinx it because I said it, but generally September is not a bad time for weather. So could look at something then.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see a fall. one,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. I always take part in this every
Yeah.
year, so I'm definitely a fan, so.
Councilor Moallem?
Hello. How has participation been in the last couple of years? Like, does it seem to decline more, or are we getting more people
The
sign up
last
for this?
years have obviously been challenging because of COVID. Last year, we were getting back up, but it hasn't definitely, I think, I'm gonna say 2019 would have been our last strong year. 2020, I was just looking back at the posters and we had stipulations like you can only have your groups of 10 people or be with your family. So I think trying to get the momentum back up from that. Last year they did do quite a few kind of like send in your picture and if you like the most unique piece of garbage and things like that to try and encourage participation. I know in I'm trying to remember the year, everything blurs together now for me because I've been here too long. But some years we've done that if they wore their community cleanup t-shirts into Boston Pizza, then they got a discount on their meals. So things like that. So there's lots of different options to encourage participation. So we're trying to get that back up and going again and reaching out to the schools. I think that's something that we've missed the last couple of years. Is E.G. Wallstrom and some of the other ones do go outside of that, but just to try and encourage them to participate as well.
Councilor Adams?
I'd like to make a motion to accept his information.
Call to question, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Lori's ready.
Yep.
Service levels for the issuance of permits.
All right, your worship and members of council. So the purpose of this report is for council to consider the current service levels for the issuance of development permits, special event permits, and food truck permits. So on January 17th, Jeff Simpson, a CAO, presented my service level report for the planning department as I was unable to attend the meeting. As a result of that discussion, council directed administration to come back with another report outlining additional resources that could be utilized in order that service levels are not decreased. So I'll go through the whole report since we have at least one new member. The current service levels are based on a department staff level of 2 full-time FTEs, director and development officer. Currently, the department is staffed with 1 permanent part-time position at 60%, that's myself, and a full-time development officer, so 1.6 FTEs. Consideration of the service levels should also include the time it will take to train a new development officer. It is anticipated that after a full year of training, the position should be able to carry out all of the job functions. The planning department is responsible for the control and regulation of all development within the town of Slave Lake and issuance and enforcement of development permits, managing same. Processing a development permit applications includes screening the application and supporting information, maintaining a register of all applications, pulling a copy of title for the affected lands, rather than requiring the developer to provide it, sending a notice of acknowledgement and completion of application to the applicant, circulating the application to required referral agents for comments, if any, preparation of report and recommendation to the development authority if required, preparation of advertising if required, preparation of the development permit and conditions, and development permit follow-up and enforcement if required. The MGA now has regulations to deal with complete and incomplete development permit applications that came in about 5 years ago. The applicant is now required to be notified in writing if the application is complete or incomplete. If not complete, the applicant is advised of the additional information they need to provide, and a new deadline is set for submission of that information. And this process continues until either a complete application is received or the application is closed because it's deemed incomplete. Discretionary use development permits must be scheduled for a decision by the Municipal Planning Commission. The MPC meets once per month with the exception of June, July, and August when one additional monthly meeting is scheduled. Some applications also require referral to external agencies, and those referral comments must be received prior to the development authority rendering a decision. As such, processing time depends on MPC meeting dates, how quickly we receive responses from referral agencies, etc. Provincial legislation, the MGA dictates that a complete application must be processed within 40 days. So a decision has to be rendered and the permit issued. The appeal period is 21 days from the date of a decision or public notice, and that's mandatory after the issuance of the permit. Compliance and enforcement follow-up vary from each application depending on the development requirements of the permit. No changes to the MGA with respect to planning regulations will affect the referral timelines and ultimately the length of time it takes to process a permit. In addition, there has been an increase in the time provided for applicants and those affected to appeal a decision to the development authority, which is now 21 days. It used to be 14 days. So current service level processing time from receipt of a complete application to a decision for a permitted use is 21 days. And for discretionary use or larger, more complicated development, up to 28 days. Currently, the department is able to meet the 21-day time frame for permitted use permits. That said, if permit volumes increase significantly, it will be difficult to meet that time frame with 1.6 FTEs. This service level is also impacted by time required to train, obviously, the new development officer. The planning department recommends leaving this service level as is, and we will bring back to council in the future if it becomes an issue, meeting that 21-day service level. Due to the fact that the MPC meets monthly with the exception of the summer months, the time to process a discretionary use permit, i.e. application that must be considered by the MPC, is on average about 35 days. And this is based on 2021 and 2022 development permits. As such, we are recommending the service level for these discretionary use and complicated permits be increased to 35 days. And then I'll go into that a little bit further into the report, because that's where council was asking for additional information. So the service level for special event permits and food truck permits, processing of special event and food truck permits includes screening the application and supporting information, maintaining a register, circulating the application to required referral agencies and preparation of the permit and conditions. Processing time from receipt of a complete application is about 21 days. Typically, the department is not having issues meeting this service level. However, requests for last minute applications is becoming the norm. And in order to meet the current service level, the planning department must be provided with at least 10 days to complete the referrals. It's not uncommon to receive an application for a special event no more than 3 to 5 days before the event is to be held. And more often than not, the applications are not complete, which exacerbates the issue further. Unfortunately, this would mean that we would be advising those who submit last minute applications that were unable to process their application in the short time frame they're providing. Additional information. So in the January 17th meeting, you asked that I come back with some more information, and it was mostly, I think, to do with the increase from 28 days to 35 days for MPC and complicated applications. So the reason administration is suggesting the increase in days has everything to do with timing of the MPC meeting. The MPC meets on the first Monday every month during the month of, except for during the months of June, July, and August, where a second meeting is scheduled. These additional meetings are held if there are applications for the MPC to consider. Sometimes we need them, sometimes we don't. For an example, the MPC meeting, if an MPC meeting was scheduled for May 1st, for instance, and the meeting was held, and the next day, May 2nd, we received a complete development permit application for a discretionary use that must be considered by the MPC. The application would wait until June 5th for the MPC to consider this application. This is 35 days that the application must sit and wait for the MPC. The delay has nothing to do with the development resources and everything to do with timing. In reality, the past couple of years, the department was not always meeting the 28-day service level for these applications. And as such, I recommended amending it to reflect the worst case scenario based on timing between receipt of an application and a regularly scheduled meeting. And you might then argue that maybe the MPC should meet twice per month all year round. This scenario comes with additional costs and resources with respect to holding additional meetings and additional pressure on department staff. Essentially, for an application to be brought to the MPC, all the work involved with the for processing the application is completed in advance of the meeting. The only things that remain to be done after the MPC renders the decision is to print the conditions and the permit and send out the advertising and a referral letter if it's required, depending on the application. This is because the MPC's report and suggested motion must contain all the conditions for consideration by the MPC, and these conditions must be reflected in the MPC's motion. As they are the development authority in that instance and not the development officer. Administration cannot make the decision for the MPC after the MPC meeting is held as to what the conditions will be that are imposed. In order to establish and impose conditions, a thorough review of the application must take place and a determination of the regulations that should be considered, and a report with detailed conditions is prepared. So essentially 95% of the work has to be done before it actually arrives at the MPC meeting. So a recent example, the planning department recently processed a discretionary use development permit application for a complicated, multifaceted development involving the renovation and conversion of a commercial development to 2 residential units and new self-storage facility utilizing CCANs. The director, and I'm talking about a lot of experience here. I spent 2 full days reviewing the application, comparing the various development aspects to the regulations, preparing a detailed plan review, considering the conditions and then preparing the report and then putting together the agenda. Like, it was a lot of time. So as such, the planning department is not recommending additional MPC meetings over and above those scheduled, one meeting per month, except for June, July, August, where there will be 2 meetings. And this will capture those busy construction months so that we can handle that larger volume. Further, applications that must be considered by the MPC only constitute about 25% of all applications received, and only about 25% of those would require the full 35-day time frame anyway. So we're talking about a pretty small volume. This is due in large part to the fact that during our busiest period, which is the construction season, the MPC is meeting twice a month. So for clarity, the number of applications that require the 35-day time frame, we're talking maybe 15 a year, maybe. So then I'm providing you some information on contracted resources. The planning department solicited the use of the ADOA membership to send out an information request regarding known contractors who provide day-to-day development services. So day-to-day services being the issuance of permits, processing subdivision, completing development agreements, land use amendments, etc. We only found 2 companies, but we did find 2 in Alberta that will provide this service. Most others, or almost all others, provide long-range planning services where they're rewriting statutory plans. They're really not interested in day-to-day development work. I contacted both the companies. Urban Systems will provide a day-to-day development service as outlined above. However, the aim of their company is not just to complete the work and provide it back to the municipality, but to operate as an arm of the municipality. And operating in this manner, their goal is to train and educate and mentor the staff to get the department to a place where it's functioning well as a team and on its own. While the services provided are commendable and a great business model, we don't require someone to train or mentor. What we really need is capacity at times. We then contacted Sheffer Andrew, and they will provide day-to-day development services as outlined above, and will carry out the work and return it to the municipality once complete. They also train staff on various tasks if desired. They do not operate in the shadows as an arm length of the municipality, so just do the work and give it back. Their rate for a development officer is $121 an hour, and they typically enter into a 2 to 3 year contract to provide this service. As it currently sits, and based on the volume of work we've experienced over the past couple of years, I'm not anticipating a great influx of development permits or subdivision applications in 2023. Such that it would stretch our resources to a point where we can't keep up. This assumption is based on current interest rates and construction, cost of construction. I anticipate the planning team will be able to handle the work, volume of work coming in without additional resources. That said, we are now aware of a company that could provide the services in the event that my assumption isn't correct and things go crazy this year. So option 1 would be to leave the service level as it now stands, 28 days for discretionary use in complicated applications, or reduce the service level from 28 to 35 days, increase the time it takes to issue the permits, essentially, for discretionary use in complicated applications to meet the current timing of MPC meetings and the actual service level that we've been able to provide. And our recommendation is obviously to decrease the service level from 28 days to 35 days for complicated and MPC applications. Questions?
Councillor Ferguson.
So what I'm hearing is largely you would like to increase the time because of the timelines of when the MPC meetings line up, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so then further on that question, so I know when I first got on council about 6 years ago, we were conducting email polls. Is that still an option or is that not an option anymore?
No, we found out after we had done that. We did that basically on the advice of Alberta Municipal Affairs, and then found out when we had a legal review of our process that that's entirely illegal and we can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, we can't do that anymore. And there were a couple other things we used to do back in the day that we have been corrected on. There was a time when we would, if it was an application that sought a refusal of the MPC, so it was above their authority, we would take it automatically to the SDAB. We've been informed we can't do that. Basically, we're fettering the authority of the MPC. So those applications must go there, even if we know they're going to be refused. That's a requirement of the act. Another thing we used to do is we would sometimes impose the conditions after the MPC made the decision. Not allowed to do that either. They have to have every decision that they're going to impose or consider must be in the report and must be in the minutes of the meeting.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Adams.
Essentially, from what I'm gathering in your numbers here, this is going to happen less than 6% of the time on our applications in a year. As that stands and how often that is, I'm thinking that's acceptable to be within that 35-day window, and appreciate the information brought forward to clarify those questions.
Problem.
Councillor Randall.
I was just gonna make a motion.
Perfect.
I move that the service level for the issuance of permitted use development permit applications, special event and food truck applications remain at 21 days. The service level for the issuance of discretionary use and larger complicated development permit applications be increased from 28 days to 35 days, which is reflective of the timing of the MPC meetings and the level of service provided over the past couple of years.
I'll call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Lori, you are up again with short-term rentals. This was a very large section.
Yeah, I
of the
apologize.
package here.
It was a very, when I read through the information, which actually didn't take that long, it was a real eye opener as to the potential things that need to be considered when we're looking at short term. But anyway, the purpose of the report is to receive direction from council with respect to short term rentals and development of regulations with respect to them. So we received an application for a short term rental. However, they're not defined in our land use bylaw. And as such, the applicant then applied to amend the bylaw to add the use short term rentals. What is a short term rental? They is a rental of a dwelling unit or non-dwelling unit or rooms or room within a characterized as occurring in any housing type. So it could be a house, secondary suite, carriage house, garden suite, cabin, apartment, and condo for a short period of time, less than a month, facilitated by an online platform such as Airbnb, Vrbo, primarily utilized by visitors, tourists, and often without in-person interaction. Bed and breakfast is defined in our land use bylaw, and they are approved as a home-based business. It means a dwelling in which no more than 4 units without cooking facilities are made available for temporary accommodation of the traveling or vacationing public. The number of approved units will depend on the availability of on-site parking, and they shall be operated by a person who occupies the dwelling as a private residence. So the purpose of this report is to receive direction from council with respect to the process to engage and solicit feedback from stakeholders and the community, and then define and establish appropriate regulations for short-term rentals. Upon investigating the issue, it became clear the subject of STRs and the potential impacts is much more complicated and diverse than we anticipated. It also became clear that there is a large list of stakeholders who will be impacted by STRs, and that includes citizens, local tourist accommodation providers, owners of STRs, municipalities, and so on. It is clear the complexity and number of potential issues associated with them and the regulations utilized to manage them requires further investigation and consideration. Attached to the report is part of the toolkit from the Canadian local governments for regulating short-term rentals. The first 28 pages of the toolkit provides the background information and the impacts of STRs on housing availability and affordability. We encourage council to read this document as it provides valuable insight into the potential issues that we will need to consider when drafting appropriate regulations. Planning department would like to provide a process for council's consideration in order to engage the community and stakeholders to establish goals we wish to achieve with respect to STRs, to define and establish regulations to reduce and mitigate potential negative impacts, and to reach the goals that we've established. So inform and consult would be the beginning stage. Determine who the stakeholders are, engage the stakeholders and the community, utilizing engagement HQ and other tools, host a public open house to inform and solicit feedback, conduct interviews and with diverse groups of stakeholders, prepare surveys to solicit information. Then we would move on to goal setting, which would take place after the inform and consult stage is complete, where we would solicit feedback utilizing various methods discussed above as to the goals the stakeholders, the community and council feel that should be considered for this project. Following is a list of goals. It's not exhaustive that could be considered, which are protecting housing availability and affordability, supporting the tourism economy through STRs, establishing regulatory and tax equity amongst accommodation providers, ensuring the health and safety of guests, collecting tax owed, ensuring cost recovery, fostering respectful neighborhoods, achieving a high degree of compliance, prioritize the goals we would need to prioritize the goals while being mindful of potential incompatibility. So if we choose 2 goals and they're not compatible, we'll need to decide which one is the primary goal. And for instance, 2 that would supporting the tourist economy through affordability may conflict with protecting housing availability and affordability. So we'll need to be mindful of that when we're doing that. And then there's regulation development. Determine the form the regulations will take within the land use bylaw or a separate bylaw entirely. Determine the resources required to reach the desired goal. Establish draft regulations based on the degree of impact in order to achieve the goal. And the regulations should be clear, simple, and consistent. And then communicate the final product, which would be draft bylaw and present to council. Council gives a bylaw first reading, set the date for public hearing, advertise, hold the public hearing, and pass the bylaw. And we're looking at timelines would be stakeholder and citizens determination in April to May, sending out letters and explaining the project, engaging stakeholders and the citizens, advertising. May, creating various engagement tools. June, sending out surveys and conducting other engagement opportunities, maybe an open house in July, compile what we've heard from the surveys, interviews, and open house in August and September, begin the draft regulations and communicate what we've come up with in the way of a draft to stakeholders, community and council, and then proceed through the public hearing and bylaw readings in October and November. So the options are status quo. This option does not add short-term rentals to the land use bylaw and as such does not regulate them at all, with the exception of bed and breakfast. So things would just remain as they are. Option 2, draft regulations without stakeholder and community input. And option 3, engage stakeholders and community, establish goals and regulations based on community feedback. So we're recommending that we engage stakeholders in the community as short-term rentals could have significant impacts on the community that could be reduced or mitigated through the establishment of regulations. Questions?
Well, Councillor Ferguson.
So I just have a quick question right now. So I believe we have a few B&Bs operating right now. Since it's not contemplated in our land use bylaw, how are they operating? Are they operating
Without any permits or approvals?
already?
Yeah.
And then, so if we were gonna go down this path, what happens to the current applicant? Just, hey, sorry,
was
we're
my
gonna go
question.
through a long engagement process, so we'll have a decision back in October, November.
What I basically told this individual is that we haven't issued a permit. It's not operating with approval. And we won't enforce on that until the council has made a decision which way they're gonna go. So if it's gonna be status quo, then they'll be advised that they can't operate and they have to stop their Airbnb. If we're going to do the regulation development, then they would continue to operate until such time as we have a bylaw in place, and then they'd be notified of what the regulations are and given a timeline within to comply with those current regs, whatever they may be.
Okay. And then a follow-up. So some of the smaller communities that are kind of in the same boat as us, like, what are they doing? Like outside of the tourist hotspots, like the Banffs, the Jaspers, the Canmores of the world, what are other small communities like us doing?
I've seen a few like Hinton. Well, the Hinton is a little bit bigger, but still not the hotspot. Like they just they did a separate bylaw. I think what they did was pulled something from some other community and just picked a few regulations. Some of them have gone whole hog and dive right into like, and there's quite a bit of enforcement and tracking and others have done, like Hinton is a little more passive, right? It's here's the regulations. Some of them set them up so they run like a home-based business, so they're owner occupied. So there are some pretty simple things you can do right out of the gate that will narrow the ability for these things to get way out of hand. And one of them is owner occupied.
Yeah.
In order to open your Airbnb, you would have to live in it. In order to, so that would remove the ability for you to have multiple residences where there's no
It's not using
owner
a housing
interaction
inventory. Okay.
with, so there, like, there's a whole kinds of things that we can do here. They can be very low key and they can be very elaborate depending on how much time and resources council wants to put at it and what kind of goals you want to achieve in your regulation.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, nothing.
I would also say if we go down the path here that you're recommending is also even the community you mentioned, is to find out the pitfalls they've had with it, because it's from what I'm hearing from the real estate side, it is not all fun and games.
It is not, no, there's
So-
quite a few challenges and issues associated.
Yes, and it caused some issues right off the bat as soon as they started talking about this. So
Mhm.
as long as we're looking into other communities that are similar to ours, and I do think Hinton is similar to us
Mhm.
and how it operates, although they're closer to Jasper, but we have the advantage of the lake. It's a concern for the community and I'd want to make sure we get this right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Counselor
Yeah, happy
Waddle?
with that.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I think another thing we have to be mindful of is as a business, I saw this winter was a really busy winter. And you know, I think there's a bigger issue here that we may need more hotel rooms in Slave Lake. That thinking back, we had 2 hotels that burnt down, another hotel downtown that's only probably less than 50% using what was used before. So I think even for a hotel group that wants to look at opening a hotel here, something like that is probably north of $15 million to open a hotel. And I think by having a whole number of short-term rentals within our community, we probably scare that kind of investment in our community as well.
Counselor Ferguson?
If we were going to move with the whole community engagement processes, you know, 7 kind of 8 months is kind of what it looks like on here. Is there any way to speed that up so it's a little bit quicker so that if people do have, you know, they can make a determination on what they're going to do with their units?
We can try. I mean, it just depends on resources. That's part of the issue is it's just
Okay.
myself and Joanna.
Gotcha.
And we're still training. And the other issue is being mindful that you know, as you move in, we either got to do it real quick so that we're done before the summer season. As soon as that happens, it starts to slow you down with trying to get people out to open houses and that sort of thing. But the bigger issue really is our resource in the department right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
I was just going to make commentary that I think upon reading this report and not your report, but the one that was attached to it,
Yeah.
That it was obviously generated from, I believe it was a hotel group that was concerned about it, I think. Either way, I thought it was really interesting, brought up a bunch of perspectives that I wasn't aware of. And I do think we need to figure out a way to balance the desire to attract and retain residents, because ultimately we want to grow our population base, but also meet the needs of industry. So, yeah, I thought this was a lot simpler.
So did I.
I thought this was quite a bit simpler until I read all 90 pages in here and now I have more concerns about it, to be honest. Counselor Hughes?
Actually, I think I'll let Jeff pipe in if he wants to.
Sorry, I just had one suggestion. I mean, council, if a timeline or an expedited timeline is of interest, there always is the opportunity, similar to some of our land or potential upcoming land use documents, to engage a consultant to help assist with this process.
I was just.
But that's going to require a budgetary amendment to assist because this has not been an item that was approved.
Right. Okay, So after reading through the toolkit, which I did, it was very eye-opening. There is a lot more to this than I initially anticipated as well. I think I'm definitely leaning towards a separate bylaw for sure. I'd love to see us expedite this a little bit more just because I feel like the timeline is quite slow. But I do think it definitely deserves a lot of time and attention. I'm curious your thoughts or people who are interested or have brought applications forward. Is this the sense of like the primary residence and them using it as income, or are you seeing this steering towards a commercial business opportunity with our community?
So far, what I'm seeing is a commercial business opportunity.
Okay, because
The
that
one-
makes a big difference for me.
Yeah, the one
to-
person well, I know of a developer who has rental properties who is considering flipping their long-term to this model.
Okay,
Quite a few. And
Okay.
then I also am aware that the lady who applied has two. And what happened is exactly what one of the possibilities was. It's a house with a approved secondary suite. There was somebody in the secondary suite. It's been, the entire development's now been converted to a short-term rental. So 2 short-term rentals in one building, non-owner occupied, and a long-term rental opportunity gone. Or 2.
okay.
Yeah.
Counselor Adams.
I want to make sure that we take our time on this and make sure we get it right. I'm not so. I don't really care so much about having a fast answer on this and a timeline that's expedited. Rather, I want to err on the side of caution and make sure we do this right. Because if we do any rash decisions as far as a bylaw or anything that impacts a lot of business decisions, impacts our local community in long-term rentals, like there's a lot more facets to this. And rather than pushing it through to get what we need, I'd rather let it give people time to think about it, let it digest, let the people come forward and have a conversation multiple times to get this across and make sure we're doing it the right way. The timeline of October, I'm good with that.
Counselor Ferguson,
I would just like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I move that the town undertake an community engagement process with respect to short-term rentals and establish goals and regulations based on the feedback received.
Further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Lori.
Kush, 2023 asphalt patching program.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. The purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to council for awarding 2023 asphalt patching program. Every year, operational budget of 100,000 is allotted to complete the asphalt patching within town limits. The overall intent of the program is to patch the asphalt roads within town limits to improve rideability experience for the users and extend the useful lifespan of the road infrastructure. Sections are selected based on areas of traffic priorities and impact to surface drainage to minimize detrimental effects to the road base. We recently concluded the RFP process. Upon closing, we received 3 submissions. A submission from Rural Concrete came at 88,000 plus GST. Pavit was at 99.50 plus GST. E-construction was 157,574 plus GST. All 3 proposals were deemed compliant as per RFP requirements. Evaluation of proposals was done according to scoring criteria listed in the RFP document. Based on that, Rural Concrete Limited scored the maximum points and is recommended for award for the proposed work. Proposal evaluation sheet can be found as attachment 1 to this report. Council may choose from one of the following options: proceed with the proposed work by awarding the contract to the recommended proponent, or do not proceed with the proposed work. The operating funds required to complete the proposed work were allocated in 2023 operating budget. Communications will be released to inform residents of the locations and schedule before the commencement of any work. Administration recommends council to award the 2023 asphalt patching program to Rural Concrete Limited. Questions?
Questions? Counselor Brandon.
I'll just make a motion.
All right.
I move that council awards the 2023 asphalt patching program to Ruel Concrete.
I did have one question before that. As far as the asphalt patching program, I know we had talked about Plastifalt before.
Yes.
Is this regular asphalt? Is this plastic?
No, this is just a regular asphalt.
Okay,
Yeah.
are we doing anything with plastifalt in the town? Is that a trial? So
Um,
my memory.
That
doesn't
would be a
serve me
question
right there.
for operations department.
Okay. Counselor Adams?
This isn't for pothole repair. This is for patching of roads,
Yeah,
like big
Yeah.
jobs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not the plastifalt. Okay,
No.
that's where I got confused there. Okay, motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Okay, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Bill, you.
yeah. And next, I have a report to provide recommendation to council for awarding 2023 concrete repair or replacement program. Capital budget of 100,000 was allotted this year to improve sidewalk infrastructure within town limits. The overall intent of the program is to improve conditions of existing concrete sidewalks and curbs within town limits, minimizing tripping hazards and providing safer surface for pedestrians to walk on. Sections are selected based on priorities like tripping hazard, mobility, and impact to surface drainage along the curbs to minimize detrimental effects to adjacent infrastructure. We concluded the RFP process recently. Upon closing, we received 2 submissions. One was from Duro Contracting, came in at $59,960 plus GST. Pavit came in at $143,869 plus GST. Both the submissions were deemed compliant as per the requirement of the RFP document. Evaluation was completed as per the document criteria, and based on that, Duro Contracting scored the maximum point and is recommended for award. Duro Contracting is a firm out of St. Albert who is scheduled to be in town to complete concrete scope related to 3rd Street Southwest Road Rehabilitation Project this year. The company has extensive experience related to concrete work around Edmonton, Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie, Athabasca, etc. Again, council have 2 options: proceed with the proposed work by awarding the contract to the recommended proponent, or do not proceed with the proposed work. The capital funds required to complete the proposed work were allocated in the 2023 capital budget. All the proposed work will be carried out as per Town of Slave Lake infrastructure standards. Communication will be released to inform residents of the location and schedule before commencement of any work, and contractor will be responsible for communications to affected residents before completing any of the proposed work. Administration recommends council to award the 2023 concrete repair/replacement program to Duro Contracting Limited.
Councilor Ferguson? Councilor Allen?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to move that council award the 2023 concrete repair replacement program to Duro Contracting Limited.
Further discussion? Councilor Ferguson?
Yeah, so I just have a comment here. So with our concrete program, we are kind of maintaining, but I don't think we're really getting ahead. So is it an option to top up the amount to the approved capital budget amount with Duro Contracting here? Is that something that we should look at? Or what's the
So
update?
this 57,000.
Yeah.
That they submitted was based on estimated quantities, right? So we have quantities, so many of square meters of work. And just to compare 2 bid proposal.
Yeah.
They came in at 57, the other came at 143.
Yeah.
But when we are doing work, we will make sure we go all the way up to $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
So that means if they that money, they will.
Yeah,
We spend up to 100,000. That's,
we will spend up to $100,000, right?
Okay.
we get them to supply quotes based on a set
So
estimate.
So we will
That's
get,
right.
as
more sidewalk.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All right, call to question those in favor. That is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kush. Next up, we have the community calendar service level discussion. Jason.
Thank you, Mayor Ward. The purpose of this report is to provide information on the current utilization of the community calendar located on the Town of Slave Lake website for the purposes of discussing potential changes in service levels. The website community calendar was launched in early 2017 and was meant to be a one-stop shop for residents and visitors to gain information on upcoming community events in the region, as well as town programming and service offerings. The communications department at the time made it a priority to actively advertise the calendar on social media to try and entice residents and local businesses and community organizations to post their events on the town's calendar. The department actively advertised on all relevant social media channels until mid-2019. Since then, it has not been actively advertised, but is still used occasionally to post town service offerings like garbage and recycling pickup days, as well as limited community service events and programming. Residents still have the option to have an event added to the calendar via a fillable form on the website. Since 2019, the use of the community calendar has declined significantly, with other community calendars coming online. Since 2019, other community calendars have come online with a dedicated staff that regularly update and maintain them. Most notably is the Slave Lake Area and Events Calendar hosted by the Lakeside Leader. The calendar provides a very detailed list of one-off events as well as reoccurring events for each day of the week. It also provides contact details for dozens of related community organizations, associations, and service providers. It provides a level of detail that would require a significant amount of effort for the communications department to replicate, particularly given the resource and staff constraints the department is currently experiencing. It is the opinion of the communications department that replicating this level of detail in this Town of Slave Lake community calendar is redundant and represents a duplication of effort that isn't required. In addition to the Lakeside Leader, the Slave Lake and Region Tourism Society is looking to develop its own community calendar that would focus on community events that highlight the town and region as a great place to live, work, and play. This calendar is still in development as the society looks to redesign its website. Based on the fact that the Lakeside Leader has a fully functional calendar up and running with dedicated staff to regularly maintain it, it is recommended that the town calendar continues to be utilized to highlight those town services and program offerings like garbage and recycling pickup days that are not included in the other community calendars. The purpose of the town calendar would be essentially to highlight town activities, programs, and service offerings that are not already included on either the Lakeside Leader or Tourism Society calendars. This would lead to less redundancy and duplication of effort. So the options before council today is option one is maintain current service levels for the town community calendar and provide links to the other community calendars already established on the website and social media channels. Option two is increase current service levels to include all activities as well as promote the calendar on town social media channels as previously done in 2017 to 2019. And option three, delete the community calendar entirely from the town website. The resource impacts, option one, there's no resource impacts. Number two would require significantly more time from myself to regularly update and maintain the calendar. And option three would actually not lead to any cost savings as the community calendar is wrapped up in a budget line item from our website provider, Civic Plus, that includes the news flash and the mobile app features of the website. So essentially, if we wanted to delete the community calendar as a potential cost savings, we would actually be reducing the functionality of our website. So those are the options in front of you. The communication strategy, if option two is selected, increasing the service level, the town would begin actively promoting the calendar on social media platforms and encouraging residents to submit their events via the fillable form on the website. The recommendation to council is recommend that council selects option one, given the current staff capacity restraints the department is experiencing, as well as the already established and detailed community calendar maintained by the Lakeside Leader and the calendar being developed by the Tourism Society. So my proposed motion is move that council task administration to continue the current service levels provided for the community calendar as outlined in option one.
Councillor Adams.
Do we currently share or push out anything over to the other community calendars that are in operation, or is that something we would be doing going forward?
No, all of our communication goes just via social media. So the other community calendars would find out that way.
Councillor Gramlich.
Are we, as you said, the website wouldn't be as functionable if you deleted it altogether, right? Are we?
Only if you, yeah, so only if you wanted to delete it as a potential cost savings.
Yeah. Is there a way to link these other ones to it or something? So kind of piggyback, or is it just a big headache and?
Oh, I could look into it, but I imagine it would be a big headache, but I can look into it if you want, but yeah,
fine.
It would likely be a huge headache.
Okay.
Although we did mention though that we would provide links or direct traffic that came to our website to those other potential
If we could-
community calendars,
If
right?
we
So-
could, if it was easy or relatively easy to calendar embed the link to their calendar into our website, that would be great. I know the website's a bit of a bear to navigate,
Mhm.
but if there's an easy way to do it, I personally, in looking at this, I don't think we need to duplicate because the calendar provided by the Lakeside Leader is excellent.
Mhm.
And they're also the ones covering all the stories for everything that's happening. So they have a lot better idea of what's going on. Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think there's a need for us to duplicate what's already working quite well. I think the community is very aware of the Lakeside Leaders Community Events calendar as well. So I think it already has a great following, so no need to take away from that. I did just want to mention that as far as the Tourism Society's calendar goes, that is kind of more just going to be geared towards regional events or anything that tourism operators sort of send to us. We also will have a link to the Lakeside Leader calendar as well. So I just think, all around for those types of pages and for visitors and people in the area, it'll kind of keep linking back to that being like the main, focal point and the main calendar as well. So I think that should work quite well.
Counselor Adams.
Move that council task administration continue the current service levels provided for the community calendar as outlined in option 1.
The discussion. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Okay,
Tourism.
I'm up again. So if I can just get direct counsel to the back of your agenda package. I think it's around, I don't know if you guys have page numbers or not, but it should be around page 90-ish. It should look something like this.
Oh,
90?
page
Ish.
6 of 17.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what your numbers are like.
6 of 17 in iCompass on that, on report G.
Got it.
I'll just give folks a minute or two to pull that up because I'm going to be delivering this report via this
The
presentation.
right side of the table is all good. I don't know what the people on the left.
I'm getting whiplash.
All right. Okay, well, I'll begin. So the purpose of this report is to outline the town of Slave Lake tourism priorities for 2023 that are realistically achievable given the resource and staff capacity constraints currently experienced by both the Slave Lake Region Tourism Society and the town of Slave Lake. A little bit of background on this report. This report builds directly off the tourism strategic plan that was drafted in 2016. The Tourism Society was planning on updating the strategic plan. However, the society and the town believe the strategic plan is still valid. And therefore, the society is working on creating an operational plan instead, which will be based on actions and priorities that are already identified in the strategic plan. This operational plan is yet to be developed by my knowledge, but Councillor Hughes can update us later. It is possible that the town of Slave Lake's plan will need to be revised based on the results of the society's operational plan to avoid duplication and effort and ensure efficient use of staff time and resources. The Tourism Society will be a key partner as they have a committed board and a part-time employee dedicated to the tourism file. The town of Slave Lake's role will be one of supporting the society in its efforts and building on the work already completed or currently in development. The town will also be developing a summer tourism digital marketing campaign, which I'll get into in my presentation to attract visitors to the region. So now if you all could just refer to the presentation. So don't worry about the first slide. I've already gone to that. So I'll direct folks to the second slide. It says SWOT analysis. So as part of the research for the 2016 strategic plan, a baseline was developed that identified the current state of the regional tourism sector, including identification of assets, interviews with key stakeholders and community leaders, and a SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is what you see on this slide. It still remains current, in my opinion. I would guide councillor to the weaknesses section of the SWOT analysis that were identified back in 2016, because there have been some updates and some progress made on some of these, as you see in the left-hand side of the slide. So some of the weaknesses identified were limited resources and information gaps, no waterfront infrastructure, a small business base and shops, very low market awareness, no historical society, beautification of downtown, and quality of beaches. So the last two, we've actually progressed quite a bit on, which you see on the left-hand side. So the quality/cleanliness of Devonshire Beach has improved significantly since the signing of the MOU last year between the MD of Lesser Slave River, the town, and Alberta Parks. While the opportunity for a marina located in Old Town remains, the previous feasibility study concluded it would be difficult to maintain economic viability given the short boarding season and large capital investment required. So this SWOT analysis kind of provided the backbone for that 2016 strategic plan. Moving on to the next slide, I give you a little bit of regional data. This data was provided by the Alberta Ministry of Jobs, Economy and Northern Development. I'm not going to go into it in excruciating detail, but you will see some of the highlights. Residents of Alberta accounted for 84% of our domestic tourism spending in the Northern Alberta tourism region. And 87% of the overnight visitors here to the region were from within Alberta. What this tells us is that our marketing dollars should be spent mostly within Alberta, because that is where our visitors are coming from. Detailed estimates for international visitors are not available at the provincial or regional level due to small sample sizes and limited data availability on the part of the province. But I encourage you to look through some of that data there. It provides an overview on spending in the region, as well as kind of the main trip purpose for visitors coming to the region. Moving on to the next slide is our visitor information center data. This data is gathered pretty much every year, but essentially what this slide shows is, as many of you know, the COVID-19 pandemic had a devastating effect on the tourism industry, and Northern Alberta was certainly not immune to this. So you see this in our VIC data. So our previous high was in 2019, and that's when we had 1,681 visitors to the VIC. And then you see in 2020, it drastically declines. There was no data for 2021 because it was closed because of the pandemic. And now we see from last year in 2022, numbers are slowly rising. We're still, according to 2022, we're still kind of half of what we were in 2019, but we're trending in the right direction. So once again, just a little bit of baseline data to set the context. Getting into the actual actions and priorities on the next slide. So the 2016 strategic plan identified 6 strategic goals with initiatives, actions, and outcomes identified for each goal. The following identifies actions for 2023 that can be progressed based on the current regional context, staff capacity, and available resources. So under goal number 2, there was a partnership goal. So the initiative is a connected tourism network and community, which I think we're doing quite well at with the Tourism Society. We're building a good collaborative relationship. Some of the actions under this initiative are prepare and share the tourism value proposition, promote and support entrepreneurship opportunities as it relates to tourism, regular satisfaction and input surveys, and local benefit campaigns and data collection to further support the tourism value proposition and opportunities, and a community ambassador program. Once again, all of this is done in partnership and collaboration with the Tourism Society. Another initiative under goal number 2 is improve frontline visitor services. So the Tourism Society is once again planning FAM tours. Those are familiarization tours for frontline staff and the Visitor Information Center staff, and an information kit for those FAM tours. What a familiarization tour is for folks that are unaware is essentially you get a bunch of folks together and you take them on a tour of some of the region's highlights and some of the opportunities here. So we would take them to the bird observatory. We would show them where the Lily Lake Trailhead is. We'd show them where some of the operators are, where the beach access is, some of our parks and playground or campgrounds. We just take them on a tour so folks know what's available in the area and they can communicate that to potential visitors. Under goal number 3, essential services, research and data collection. The initiative is baseline research on the visitor market. So visitor tracking programs, surveys, and reports. The Community Services Department already produces an annual VIC report. I'll be assisting them in that this year. Maintain comprehensive operator inventory. The Tourism Society has just begun doing this. They hosted an operator workshop several weeks ago with local and regional operators coming to attend to discuss. So once again, more data collection and dissemination. Evaluating plan progress. So assemble a final list of data sources and metrics to evaluate the plan. Produce an annual report with a checkup on progress. Host an annual stakeholder meeting for input updates, and maintain strategic progress with annual work plans. Under goal number 4, building products and experiences. Under the initiative of Slave Lake Region Dark Sky Program. From what I've gathered from VIC staff, the international visitors that we do get are largely from the European market, and they're on their way to the Northwest Territories to see the Northern Lights. So they'll typically fly into Edmonton or Calgary, they'll rent a car, and they'll start driving. And Slave Lake is just kind of a stop in between. So one of the things we could look for in maybe in 2023, certainly in 2024, is highlighting some of those, those great viewing points that we have here. We see those great pictures over by the park. And so as part of the FAM tour and part of our trail maps and stuff, we could kind of highlight where some of those best viewing areas are for the Northern Lights. So that's what that action kind of talks to. Packaging and itinerary development. So identify packaging content and develop themes. and actively market and promote those packages. Sorry. So one would be, for example, folks that want to come to do hiking. We would have some specific collateral or maps for folks that want to go hiking. Same for quadding and ATVs. So you're developing materials for a certain target market and promoting those packages with your local and regional operators. Improve operator competitiveness, distribute emerging information on project and service opportunities. We've already talked about that, and promote market and export ready experiences. And number 6, infrastructure investment and business financing, trail network development and marketing. So once again, an inventory of trail networks with prioritization. One thing we've heard time and time again is we need to have one map that shows all the trails in the area. There are maps that exist, but they're usually only focused on the parks or the campgrounds. And strengthen visitor experiences. Once again, we've talked about that. The other major component, I'll move on to the next slide, is actually marketing. So I think under the collateral material toolbox, develop collateral materials with the new brand visual and content, community tear maps, and trail and network maps. So once the Tourism Society has developed and finished their visitor guide, and I've seen all the maps that they've produced, I'm going to meet with them and we're going to identify gaps in those maps. And then I'm going to carry the ball forward and try to get those produced. This is essentially our plan for the maps. As it relates to marketing, this is going to be a huge component of my work. So we're on to the marketing plan slide. So I've engaged a local marketing professional, Truly Creative Marketing, to develop a marketing campaign for the summer. So we developed it was called the Heck Yeah campaign last year that Insight ran. We're going to be running a similar campaign, but I'm keeping the work local. And we're going to develop a new campaign with a new slogan of Jewel in the North. And we're going to run the Jewel in the North campaign, and we're going to run the Heck Yeah campaign at the same time. And we're going to see what results we're getting. So as part of the tourism marketing campaign, the deliverables as part of the marketing contract with Truly Creative are as follows. So she's going to do a target audience and demographic research and summary based on the previous campaign and any previous analytics from 2022. We're going to do weekly monitoring of those analytics and revise the ad campaign throughout its runtimes to support obtaining successful results. Once again, we're going to create a secondary ad campaign to run simultaneously to the Heck Yeah campaign. This will include 6 new ad graphics and copyright description captions designed for conversation. These ads would run at the same time and split the same ad spend on the 2 chosen platforms of Meta Business Suite, which is Facebook, and Instagram and Google. The ad campaign will run for either the duration of 4 months or within the 4 months of May, June, July, and August. The new ad graphics would also be used and utilized on the town's social media channels and communication collateral moving forward. There will also be a creation of a new landing page that will appeal directly to the target demographic. The current landing page is not optimized to appeal to our target audience or to convince visitors to visit the region. There is no information about Slave Lake or why they should visit. This will be one page with more information and imagery. It will showcase us as the Jewel of the North and why they should visit and make it easy to find information for visitors to plan their trip to Slave Lake. Funds for this will be sourced from the approved 2023 ECDEV budget. And once again, all of this is in collaboration and partnership with the Tourism Society. And that's it.
I'll open up the floor for discussion. Councillor Moala.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted, I like the idea of the familiarization tours. How many I think they were brought in maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Do you know approximately how many we've done over the summer?
I'm not sure, but it looks like Councillor Hughes is ready to answer.
Yeah, they've actually been going on for several years. If I'm not wrong, Councillor Brandel. Yeah, they've been going on for quite some time now. And they're usually always in May. Last year, we actually had a really good turnout, better than we had previously, just from better marketing and exposure to it. This year, we're actually kind of taking on the challenge to businesses to use it as like a team building business type of exercise, get all their staff involved. So we're hoping to really continue to grow the event. I don't know numbers necessarily off the top of my head, but it is something that we're trying to kind of push and get out there more and more and get those frontline staff really educated on the points of access and all of that type of thing. So that's definitely a Tourism Society led event overall, but we would love to host the town of Slave Lake or any businesses that want to participate in it.
Keep going.
Have any of I guess, these counselors, have any of you guys attended the familiarization tour?
I was actually gone last year when they did it, so it is on my list to do it this year. However, I have been to most of the places, and we basically go off of our top 10 things to do in the region. So we go to North Shore, Boreal Center, you know, typical kind of places like that, which I have been. But it would be beneficial for sure for people who, and even if you haven't been out there for a couple of years, right? Things really change. So yeah, I encourage anybody to attend. Any other comments? Comments from you? I have my own.
Go ahead.
comments.
Yep. you can-
Yeah, okay. So obviously we've been working very closely together, the Tourism Society, along with Jason. So looking at your plan here, I think it's wonderful. It obviously coincides very well with things that we're working on. It's very complementary towards Tourism Society's goals at this time, and we are in no way duplicating things in any way. So that's a good thing for me to see. Just a note for you, our operational plan is in the works and will be discussed at this coming week's meeting. I really liked the Heck Yeah campaign from last year, so I'm interested to see these two campaigns going at the same time and very curious to see the results from there. Also wondering about the Jewel of the North. I know that used to be kind of an older slogan that we had here, and now all of a sudden it's coming back here. Is there?
That was just the recommendation. That was the recommendation of our marketing consultant.
Okay.
To run with the Jewel of the North inside,
Okay.
and once again, simultaneously with the Heck Yeah campaign.
Okay. Okay. What else can I say? I really love the idea of the Dark Sky program that had actually been on our radar from the previous ECDev officer pre-pandemic times. So it's nice to see you talking about that. And I definitely think that's a kind of a quick win. That's very easy for us to do. One more thing for your packages. So you're saying you're going to make certain maps, you were saying, for like quadding, or do you want to just elaborate again?
Yeah, so it all depends on what the Tourism Society produces. So once I have a final list of what you guys are producing,
Right.
The plan is to meet together with Shauna and whoever else with the society, identify gaps,
Okay.
and then I would carry that forward to try and fill those gaps.
Okay, and then essentially you would have these out at the Visitor Information Center as well and here in the town office?
You
or-
betcha. Yeah,
Okay.
you betcha.
Okay, perfect. That was it for me.
Okay, okay, go ahead. Mel.
No, I just want to ask if there has been any, and this is more of a tourism question. Has there been any discussion around moving the Visitor Information Center in town?
I
don't know.
So, well, the Visitor Information Center is like the MD and the town kind of jointly use, right? So the Tourism Society has basically been donated an office out there, and seeing that we kind of want to start to, observe the greeting services and the tourism coming into the VIC. That seems like a really great place for us to be operating out of at this time. I don't know if that kind of answers your question, or are you looking for something in particular?
Counselor Adams.
You're more around the idea of visitor information coming into town. Or what?
Yeah, I think I remember, I've been here for a long time, and I remember the Visitor Information Center being in town. And I think it was easier to navigate people from in town here. I don't know. I guess I see some of the numbers on now that they moved inside the Visitor Information Center.
Mhm.
But I think, from looking back and thinking back, it was probably way more when it was in town.
I don't know for sure. I mean, all I do know is that when I listen to Jill or other reports from there, the first thing people want, especially if they haven't been to town, is to pull up the highway, use the bathroom, stretch their legs. They need adequate parking and things like that. So I don't know, whether there would be a better choice in town. But I do know that as far as the Tourism Society goes, we are, jointly funded and supported by the MD of Lesser Slave River and by the town of Slave Lake. So in terms of that, working out of the building that's already available to us is definitely something I think we will continue to do until further notice. I would be hesitant to say we want to move it just into the town of Slave Lake, as it's supposed to be kind of a regional hub, but.
I have a couple of questions. So I was just curious what success looks like for this. We've got lots of priorities here. I didn't really see a timeline I know we said in 2023.
Yeah.
But what's success for you with this? That's a lot of priorities that.
Yeah, success for me is that we fill all the information gaps before May long weekend.
Okay.
So we have those maps, we have that collateral in place before May long weekend. Long-term success is greater visitation to the region. Now, that's difficult to track because not all folks will stop at the Vic. So, I mean, so we'll track what we can, but increased success to me means increased visitors to the region.
Okay,
And
so,
how we track that, I'll still have to come up with something.
right, so to start, it's rounding out that portfolio of information for
Yeah.
the visitors.
Yeah,
to the
before
community.
May long, hopefully.
Yeah, and tracking, I'm not entirely sure, like, I know I've never stopped at a visitor information
Yeah,
center
and
in
if
my
you're-
life, I have it on my phone.
Yeah.
So, the fact, I'm still so shocked that the visitor information center gets used as much as it actually does, based on the reports, because if it was me, I bypass and head right into whatever community I'm going to. So it'll be interesting to see if you come up with a way to track that, with visitors to the region, but I was just curious kind of what timeline we're looking
Yeah,
at.
I may have to approach some of the hoteliers in the campgrounds and see if they're willing to collect or share some of their data with us. That's one viable option, but that's, yeah. To be discussed.
Not really on Jason's topic, but to touch on a bit of what Ally and Kimberly spoke about is these visitor information centers, and Kim or Julie or Steve now could correct me if I'm wrong, but Travel Alberta was hammering home to the tourism committee a few years ago that they need to have tourist stuff at them, right? Whether it's paddle boards, or they need to have a tourist provider at them to make them successful. And that right now they're kind of used for Wi-Fi and rest stops. And you want to draw, I don't know, Joe's paddle boards there or whatever their other thing. And then people will come there for that and get the other information. So maybe that's a little bit more of what you were thinking, is drawing them into town to have a service. So that's something
That is the long-term goal of what I think our society would like to see. We've talked about an interactive type of thing that people could use out there as far as mapping goes, and then having, paddle boards for rent or kayaks, and actually utilizing the space, possibly having a playground for kids to play. Like, I think there is, we have a lot of options and space to grow with it out there as well. But I mean, sometimes things change and you got to move with it
Yeah.
too. I get what you're saying.
you need a reason for them to stop other than Wi-Fi in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You needed something else to catch them there.
Agreed. Yeah, we're working on it.
That is all. It was just a comment.
Councilman Wylam,
I'll just make a motion that council accepts this report as information.
any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That is carried, and I would like to call a 10-minute recess. If we can just have a quick break. Thank you. Welcome back. Okay, council committee appointments, report H. It says department council, so I'm gonna go with it. That's huge.
Sure, I'll go off this. So the purpose of this report is to appoint members of council to fill vacant positions created during the municipal by-election. So background, council appoints members to represent the town of Slave Lake Council on a variety of committees each year. With the resignation of the former mayor and councillor, this created vacancies. These vacancies were held until a by-election was completed. Administration is bringing the vacant positions to council for their consideration and appointment. As attached, the highlighted boards are the ones with vacancies. Council will also have to appoint a deputy mayor for the dates of July 1st, 2024 to February 28th, 2025. Options that are presented to council here are to appoint board members. Letters will be sent to each of the committees advising them of the change of representation as needed. You have a list before you of the various boards and members of council appointed or recommended to be appointed to them. In addition to that, you also have a recommendation to appoint Councillor Ali Mullen as the deputy mayor for the dates of July 1st, 2024. Is that for the right period of time? Yeah, that's right. To February 28th, 2025.
Not till next year.
There was some discussion just on the deputy mayor one for Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Moallem. Councillor Ferguson was the last term of deputy mayor for them to switch so that Councillor Moallem had more time. So we might be amending that.
Yes.
Just make the motion with the appropriate dates.
Okay.
We can change.
Yeah.
it. And that you'll have to like appoint Councillor Ferguson as well.
Okay, perfect. There was just some discussion in the break surrounding that. So someone wanna make a
Okay.
motion for me?
Just
So very
say
long
that, like,
motion.
So there's two motions. One, we
motions
can do
there.
one for all the
Council
committee
committees.
appointments as listed. And one or two, I guess, that might need to be made for the deputy mayor appointment.
I will move that council amends the member appointments to council committees as follows. And I'll as the motion as read.
Yeah.
I don't want to read it out, sorry.
Great.
Yep, that's good.
Any discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried.
So I'm gonna make a motion here. For Bryce though, I'm gonna move to appoint Councillor Ferguson as deputy mayor for the dates of July 1st, 2024 to February 28th, 2025.
All right, call to question those in favor.
The other dates here.
The other dates, we're gonna have to,
Confused on why we're swapping the names here.
so
Okay.
Ali could have more time.
More time to
get his feet
acclimatize
wet.
himself.
He's gonna go last as deputy mayor.
I'll go
So what's the current date for Bryce?
This is,
March
one-
1st to the end of the term.
The one we're about to make.
so the vacancy that I had was this one that's listed here, July 1st, 2024 to February 28th, 2025. So we'd move Councillor Ferguson to that one. Councillor Ferguson's term would have been immediately following that one, which will now become Ally's.
Gotcha, Mark. Thank you.
So
Kim,
I move that Councillor Ali Moallem be deputy mayor from the March 1st, 2025 to October 24th, 2025.
okay, so we have two motions on the floor. We'll go with the first motion, appointing Councillor
yeah, sorry.
Ferguson deputy mayor. Call to question those in favor.
Sorry, I thought we really did.
No, we didn't do the vote part yet. That is carried. And now we'll do the second motion regarding Councillor Moallem. Call to question those in favor. And that is carried.
All right. The next report before council tonight is the prioritizing municipal input in future RCMP contract policing decisions. So on Tuesday, FCM outlined their profound disappointment in the federal government's decision to not absorb retroactive costs associated with the latest RCMP collective bargaining agreement, despite months of municipal advocacy. FCM issued a statement on Wednesday responding to this decision to pass unbudgeted and unaccounted for RCMP costs onto municipalities without consulting or engaging local governments in the discussions or negotiations. The statement further outlined FCM's position that this situation cannot occur again and was dispatched to all FCM members. There is a motion before you today. Would you like me to read it all out for you, or would you like it to be included in your motion proposal? That's a big motion.
Councillor Hughes said, make him read it.
We've all read it.
All right, I'll read it. So the motion. So whereas the government of Canada has made the decision in budget 2023 to make municipalities responsible for all retroactive costs stemming from the latest RCMP collective bargaining agreement. And whereas these extraordinary one-time costs, which in some jurisdictions amount to millions of dollars, will cause significant hardship for communities and residents across the country, and were negotiated without meaningful consultation or a seat at the table for the municipalities responsible for paying the bill. And whereas municipal governments are already paying a growing share of policing costs, but unlike other orders of government, cannot run deficits to spread out the impact of these extraordinary one-time sums and have limited revenue tools. And whereas the local governments will now be forced to make difficult decisions that will impact residents, such as cutting essential services, reducing policing levels, raising property taxes significantly, and or canceling work on local infrastructure at a time when Canadians' concerns about community safety and the cost of living are already rising. And whereas going forward, it is critical that municipalities be proactively engaged in any forthcoming processes related to contract policing to prevent this occurring again. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Slave Lake joins the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in calling on the federal government to commit to ensure that local governments are meaningfully consulted, fully informed, and at the table on issues related to policing costs, given the municipal role in keeping our communities safe. And be it further resolved that the town of Slave Lake conveys this support in writing to local members of parliament.
Councillor Adams.
Make that motion.
Any-
Can you say?
Yeah,
There's discussion? No?
I'd like to hear Steve read it.
He said he'd like to hear Steve read it.
oh, absolutely. I'll read the resolve part. So that's about all the motion is.
I'll call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. All right, next up, we have committee minutes. Any minutes. First up is the Chamber of Commerce. That is me. Okay. Actually, I'm going to defer to Councillor Moalim on this one, as he was there for the meeting today. If you just want to give a quick summary of that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, no problem. I was there today. We did have two new members that have joined the Chamber of Commerce. And I do have inquiry on the third that I did forward to our
Board
administration.
members, correct?
Pardon me?
You're talking board members?
Yeah, two new board members. One of the things we did talk about is organizing our next board meeting, which is, I don't have my notes in front of me. I want to say it is in, what are we in?
Next membership meeting?
The next membership
It's in
meeting.
June. Yeah.
In June, and we did talk about a couple of guest speakers that we would like to invite to that. Other than that, we did talk about the upcoming trade show that is coming up. We are at, I think, 50 vendors, which is really good. I think at the last one we did a couple of years ago was about 70. So it does look really, really good. Our administration is doing a really good job selling the spots. On top of that, there was conversation around Riverboat Days, which is coming up, and State of the Lake. That was one of the other things that we did talk about. It sounded like it was a really good success. I was there, and I did hear some really good comments around the table surrounding that event as well.
Awesome. And we will be releasing details regarding Riverboat Days following a few more planning meetings. Just for anyone that would like to sign up for the trade show, you can contact at min@myslavelake.com and our executive director will get you signed up for that.
Yeah.
Slave Lake's usually a last minute town with bookings, so to have 50 already so far is really great, as we always have last minute signups for that. Yeah, I was pretty positive about that. We'll move on to the Lesser Slave Lake Regional Housing Authority.
Yeah, so we haven't met, but I did attend a conference last week for Slave Lake Housing. It was held by Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association. ASHA is an acronym. They are the equivalent of our AM or AUMA. So they do advocacy for the housing associations and and boards. It was really good networking. Really glad I went. Never been to it before. Minister Nixon was at the keynote speaker at the opening ceremony. And I think he's really going to be an ally both on the Slave Lake Housing Board as well as the Slave Lake Homeless Coalition Board. He's got a background in homeless, and his dad actually opened and started the Mustard Seed in Edmonton. So that's his background and his passion. So I think we're really going to have an ally in him. So that was a really good connection. And then speaking of homeless, I was really, really surprised. It was a housing association conference, and I expected more stuff for seniors and affordable housing, but there was a lot of talk about homeless. I was really, really surprised. And there's even a couple of homeless a coalition or homeless societies that partner with housing associations, and or the housing association does both. So that was kind of an eye opener for me. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, no, it was really good networking, and I'm really glad I went. So.
Okay, well, Jason kind of stole my thunder on a couple things here, but I'll repeat them for you all just to make sure you're listening. So we did host our first operators meet and greet style event in partnership with Travel Alberta last month. We had around 30 or so businesses throughout the region attend. We were able to make a lot of important connections and talk about the future of tourism in our region and how we could be working together on types of support that they're needing. We have followed up with all of our attendees with a survey, and they're just kind of collecting their data and information so we can help advertise for them, put them on our website, etc., and continue to keep in touch. In our survey, we will see if this is a event that they would like to see twice a year, etc., and how often they want to get together. So we'll update you on that. We're continuing to work through our mini website updates. We have updated and ordered our visitor information guides to be given out, as well as our maps that will be printed. These will be out at the Visitor Information Center for this summer. And we also have plans to distribute these to other VICs throughout the province. We are planning to hold our annual familiarization tours in May, and there will be more details for the community coming soon. We'll definitely do a lot of advertising for them and be encouraging businesses to come and attend. We're working on details for our collaboration with the Slave Lake Airport for our Canada Day event with Elevate Aviation. That's where all the planes will be flying through from about 2 to 5 o'clock on Canada Day. More details to come on that soon. And we're also continuing work on our Beach Fest event, which will be held out at Devonshire Beach on August 12th. This is well underway. We have done a lot of advertising for it. The Tourism Society will also be at the Lake Like Expo as well, with a lot of our information. And that's my update for now.
Library. Oh,
Sorry,
questions.
I just want to applaud the Tourism Society. You guys have done like lots of great work, and it seems like we're always talking about getting started on tourism stuff like in March, April, and May, to see how much stuff has already been done during the maybe the slower season leading up to the spring. I think your team just needs to be applauded for that.
Well, thank you. You really made my month, Ali. It definitely is a lot easier, and I will give a lot of credit where credit is due. It helps having a tourism coordinator to actually do the duties. And I think that's, part of the hard part with a lot of these groups, as we well know. If you don't have someone to actually action them, then you don't move very quickly. So I am definitely pleased with the progress that we are seeing for sure. And we have a great board and lots of people passionate about tourism as well. So that definitely helps. But thank you for the nice comment.
Library.
We held a subcommittee meeting, which was for finance, reviewing some of the finance policies and how we're moving forward. And that'll be brought forward to the actual board at the next meeting.
Homeless Coalition.
So good news, we've hired a new executive director. She's been on the job for a little over a week and getting up to speed. So good news for the coalition. And in other news, we are preparing to wind down for the season. So we're putting stuff in order to make sure that we meet the timelines that we're under for that.
Airport.
We haven't had a meeting, but we did get news that we were approved for a grant of nearly $80,000 from the provincial government to complete an airport master plan. Great news, as it will allow the support to conduct a thorough master plan and help sustainably plan for the future.
I don't remember. Do we need a motion for those two?
Yep.
I will make a motion to accept the reports presented as information. Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, business arising from delegations. Jeff, do you want to lead us through this? Ish? You want me to lead it?
Yeah, you
Sure, it's
can,
not-
by all means.
Okay, so we just had the delegation earlier from Jonathan Allen regarding the light post in front of his driveway.
I'll just make a motion, council to discuss it if you don't like it. I'll just make a motion that directs admin to contact ACO and help facilitate moving of the light pole at the expense of the landowner if they so desire.
So Steve, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Steve.
Just staring me down. I
I
felt
know
it.
you have a question.
Well, it's not a question. It's much along the same lines. I don't have a problem with moving the light to the, what would that be, east side more, simply because I get how things change and you want to advance forward, but again, at the expense of the homeowner, I don't have a problem moving that forward. But I'd like to investigate that further, much to what the motion is saying.
Counselor Hughes?
What's the precedent on this? Like, this is the first time we've kind of had this situation. I'm just curious. Has this gone on in the past? Has the town footed the bill or have we cost shared? Like, any feedback for me on that one?
Maybe the counselors that have been around the table for a while might have.
No, I haven't encountered this since the time I've been on council either.
I have seen in other municipalities, I mean, this isn't a unique topic necessarily, especially when you're talking about maybe new development or new subdivisions, where maybe that, you know, a property owner needs to, you know, a section of land is subdivided and needs to develop an access road to a home acreage quarter or something like that. There happens to be a power pole right where he wants to make it. So there are provisions, ACO will move poles but you know, there is a cost for that service. There's a cost for that equipment to go out there, and 99% of the time, unless it's some sort of town initiated development, those costs are borne by the property owner, right? If it was our development, if it was something that we were doing and needed the power pole moved, you know, that would be a different discussion and that would just be a cost of business to the town. But in this case, this is a property owner who I'm under the impression knew full well where the pole was prior to even the development of the garage. There was numerous conversations that talked about this power pole being where it is. And the property owner continued to proceed with the development, which is their choice. But the cost of that to deal with that light pole in administration's perspective should be solely theirs.
Counselor Adams?
There's another comment to make on that. You triggered my memory on that. There may be more issues at play here than simply moving the pole as far as our requirements within the town. So not only, I'm not necessarily wanting us to direct, and I'm not sure how you worded the motion there now that we're repeating it, but I would like to see something come forward from administration telling us exactly what's involved, what else is going to be impacted, whether it's bylaws or whatever, depending on spacing rules or whatever it may be. Not just simply saying, yeah, let's do it if they're going to pay for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
One of the resource impacts if they do decide to pay for it.
If there's any, you'll bring those forward, right, Jeff? Like.
Yeah, I know.
We're not just moving it tomorrow.
These discussions, like I said, this isn't the first time the topic's come up with on this issue. So there has been discussions with administration. Operations have been involved as well. From my initial discussions today in preparation of tonight, there were no concerns with the potential move location. It is on the end of the line, so it is a little bit easier in that sense, but there's only three poles on that line. And so there's typically a requirement that there has to be a minimum of 3. So we don't really have the option to simply remove it from this.
Yeah, I don't think removing it would.
No, so
sense,
if there are any significant concerns as it relates to this question, you know, moving that pole as it maybe relates to some other development purpose, we'll bring that back, but I haven't received that information from either planning or operations. So I think it's just merely a matter of cost for the most part.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, correspondence.
So you've got two items before you tonight, just for your information purposes. The first being a letter from Wellspring Cancer Support, just outlining introducing their service for those people living with cancer and their caregivers and supporters. So there's information in regards to their program and a pamphlet, I believe that's included that talks about it. So they're just looking to spread the word about their services. And you also have the second piece of correspondence before you is a receipt from the MD of Lesser Slave River, just informing us, informing the town on the results of their advocacy as it relates to the Smith Bridge, and thanking this council administration for its support. Other than that, they're just for information purposes.
Councillor Brandel.
I will accept both those as information.
Thank you. Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Mayor's Corner. Just a collective sigh, like who gives this person the mic? I would just like to say congratulations to Councillor Moallem on a successful campaign. I can attest to the fact that campaigning in winter/spring is completely miserable. In case anyone was aware, the election signs don't go into frozen ground. So after much trial and error, we've learned a drill bit, and a drill is probably the most effective way to go. So really grateful to my small child who helped me with that and was rather excited to drill into the ground to put the signs in. So just like to say that I'm really happy to be here, and that I definitely missed having this being at the table with all of you. So it's wonderful to be back, and thank you all for holding down the fort. I would also just like to say that this is going to be the last Mayor's Corner, as we are going to revamp this a little bit moving forward. And that is to be continued. And with that.
Did you guys get a permit for all the drilling you were doing?
I didn't believe we had to do the line locate, so I think we're okay. Councillor Hughes.
Motion to adjourn.
Call the question, those in